Hello, and welcome to the Beyond the Screen podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gumm.
And I'm your co-host, Cole Ballinger.
How you doing, Cole?
Doing well. Just got back to my apartment and I'm ready to flesh out some movies and some film news.
Yeah. So, as you just explained to those at home that are new to the podcast, Beyond the Screen is our very own take on cinema, whether it be cinema news, movies of the past, or recent movies that have just come out. And those three things that I just described pretty much sum up our three segments. We start each show where we go over the last week in cinema, and then after that, we will move into my favorite
Uh,
segment personally, where we go over a month, an entire month of a director's catalog. So for this month, Cole, do you want to explain who we have?
we have Robert Eggers. Is a fantastic director with a very small catalog of films. He is only 38 years old, so he hasn't been in Hollywood for too long. He only has two films out, Lighthouse and The Witch, with The Northman coming out very shortly, and a rumored Nosferatu project being in production very shortly,
Yeah,
according
and
to many sources.
on that one, I had actually heard that Robert Pattinson was in before even The Lighthouse because Robert Pattinson had watched The Witch and wanted to work with Eggers. And apparently, Eggers brought up the Nosferatu project, and Pattinson said no because he thought it was boring. And that's how he ended up on The Lighthouse. Was
Calling Nosferatu boring might be a bit of a stretch, but yeah, I
that
would have to have
I
seen the
just read that.
script.
I just read that. I don't know. Like once again, like that's not something I have in my papers. So like it could be completely fabricated by something that I read. But that it would be hilarious if Robert Pattinson looked this man in the eyes and said Nosferatu's boring.
Have you seen the 1922 Nosferatu?
Clips of it. I haven't seen it like all the way through, but I've heard some pretty good stuff from it.
Oh, I mean, I don't necessarily find, and many people share this sentiment. Films from the era, the 20s and the 30s, are not the most intriguing films for the viewer. That's why people don't really sit around and watch them. The the form, the art hadn't really come into its full effect yet.
Right, but
With that being said, Nosferatu, fantastic and gripping through its entire runtime.
interesting. And to kind of rebuttal what you said about movies, like, yeah, I agree with you that a lot of movies in that time hadn't really accomplished that art form. But another movie in the same Germanic style is the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which I absolutely adore. I love that movie.
People love that movie. I haven't seen it. That's on my list for sure.
That one. Its history was really convoluted as it had a couple writers and there wasn't really like during production there are reports of back in the 30s of just issues with story arcs and disagreements among the creative teams, but just when you watch it you would never know. Like it's so much fun and it's really interesting to see. And just when you're watching it, for those that haven't seen it, and for you especially, Cole, when you're watching it and you see the shadows and you see the convoluted size of the doorways, everything in the background that these characters walk through and these actors is all painted. That's not like original background. That's all like from the shadows to the ground or to the shadows to the ground. That's all painted.
I'm actually looking at some screen caps of it, and it's truly it's a sublime film from what I can see. Uh, very almost I'm not gonna call it what would you call that?
I mean, just exactly what it is. It's Germanic, that Germanic goth style that was, or German expressionism that was huge in the like. Was it pre World War II? I think it was
But it would have
30s.
been the
I
1930s.
said
So
30s. Did correct me? Caligari came out in the 30s, did it not?
let's look here. 1920 actually.
1920. So post World War One. Yeah. So that, and it's just like I said. Like I gotta watch Nosferatu, and you gotta watch the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. But with that said, I think it's time to get to modern times and move into actual news of today because we got a lot to cover, my man.
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. One of the movies we're going to cover later, but just a tidbit to start us off. Morbius, Sony and Marvel's latest duo project, tops 100 million in global earnings, which sounds great at first, but it's couple fact that we kind of have to go off of, the movie dropped in the last week 74% in box office earnings. That is the worst among modern superhero films, and that list includes X-Men Dark Phoenix, Batman vs Superman, Hulk, and X-Men Origins Wolverine, and so on and so forth. So what do you think about this drop-off, Cole?
I can only speak for myself. I think Jared Leto is an insufferable creep, and no one wants to watch a movie with Jared Leto as the lead after his abysmal Joker performance. Don't get me wrong, Leto's a great actor. Dallas Buyers Club, he probably won like a super duper Oscar for that. I mean, it's a crazy performance. It's amazing. He was in Fight Club. I mean, Leto, they can go on and on. Leto's been in a lot of movies. Man, he's done a lot of stuff with his life. He's a very talented individual.
Right, 30 Seconds to
He's not
Mars.
likable. 30 Seconds to Mars. I've got a couple of his songs always playing.
Right.
And yeah, but he has a cult where people pay to have sex with him. Average, the average person, they've seen these stories about Leto. They've they've seen the Joker performance, and they're just not interested in half Sony, half Marvel, kind of in the MCU, kind of not. Jared Leto movie about vampires. The appeal is not there.
Right, and we'll go over this later. Like I said in our third segment, like we'll go over the movie itself in more detail. I actually think half of why it dropped so much isn't necessarily the movie itself. And like I said, the first half we'll go over in a little bit, but the other half actually segues into our next news article of the day. We have a weekend winner, and that is Sonic the Hedgehog 2, directed by Jeff Fowler. It has earned $71 million in its opening box office weekend. That is the biggest box office opening for any video game movie adaptation ever, which is
Really?
insane. Yes, 71 million. The next closest was Morbius at 10.
What are some video game film adaptations in the past?
Well, you've had
The
the obviously that atrocious Mario like live action from the 90s, if I remember correctly. Um,
I've seen that.
it's
You know what? I don't like it at all. I didn't enjoy it.
yeah.
I I there was nothing in the movie that was charming or interesting. So strange. Such a strange way to portray Mario.
Yeah.
Luigi is like kind of like these New York. I don't know exactly what they are, but I don't like it.
So I'm looking at other like video games. Slender Man was actually made into a movie not that long ago, and that one was pretty bad.
Hey,
Um,
what about Detective Pikachu? I would have put my money that that had a bigger opening
it's weird
and
because like
Sonic 2.
was that a now I'm not a big like Pokemon fan, so I don't know if you are, but I'll pose the question anyway. Was it a show before it was a video game? Because if it was a show, then I don't think it classifies.
It was a video game before a show.
Really?
It was a video game before it was a card game, if I'm not mistaken. It started with
I think it was a card game to
the
begin with, but I think it became a video. If okay, so oh yeah,
let's
Angry Birds was also
look
another
that
one.
up.
Angry Birds was one that
Ooh,
was a
yeah.
video game adaptation that was actually not very good. Um, Apparently Street Fighter in 1994 had one. Obviously
Ooh, birds.
Mortal Kombat was another one that's had a lot. Oh yeah, Tomb Raider, Resident Evil.
Resident Evil. Those are the ones that people like really like. Hitman.
Yeah, yeah, Hitman was one.
They- they've made a couple of those, haven't they? I think there's one that either just came out or that's coming out soon.
Yeah, I do think that there are a lot. And Sonic the Hedgehog 2 tops them all. Upcoming video game adaptations, there's going to be a Five Nights at Freddy's film, Gears of War, and the last one I'm going to name because there are so many movies that are based on video games that are coming out. But there is a Ghost of Tsushima adaptation coming, which I am excited for because that one's already very cinematic.
All three of those films will make
So much,
$500 billion
so much
at the
money,
box office.
so much money,
So much money. The Five Nights at Freddy's movie, especially, man.
dude. That cult
I
that
know,
follows
I
that,
know 6 or 7 kids that smell like ketchup and have an iPad with them every time you see them.
yeah.
All gonna be in that theater. Every
Oh,
one of these smelly little TikTok kids are gonna be in that theater, and they're gonna get the crap scared out of them.
oh yeah,
Hopefully, I do too.
but I do want to give it the credit it deserves. The lore behind that video game franchise is actually kind of interesting once you dive deep into it. Obviously, this is a film, so we're not going to go into the FNAF cult fandom, but
Stay away from as much FNAF content as we can
yeah. So
on this
on
podcast.
on that note, we're going to move on to the next note. Next week we're going to be watching in theaters and going back over on this podcast The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. With that, I want to bring up this factoid, which I feel like you never see. And this just makes me so excited because I've been hyped for this movie. Me and you have actually talked about it when it was first teased months and months ago when we were actually discussing this very podcast concept. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, directed by Tom Gormican, sits at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. 27 reviews from Rotten Tomatoes, and it still sits at 100%.
Everyone's giving it a 5 star.
Oh my gosh, it's insane. That's what I'm saying. Like, we were so excited for this movie back when we were creating this concept and kind of going over this. As we reach the day that is this Friday, it comes out April 15th. I just get more and more excited. This weekend, you bet I'm in a movie theater watching this, and I hope you are too, because I want to debate this movie.
We'll pick it apart. We can do it, man.
So,
Like, I'm always down for some Cage.
dude,
If
same.
anyone knows me, I'm into Nicolas Cage.
And see, I mean, I feel like some of his 2 DVD movies are like Mandy and Pig, and some of those movies are actually not that bad. Like, they're pretty good.
I think Mandy's a masterpiece.
Yeah, no, that's another one that we.
Mandy more than I've been moved by many films. Actually, it's really good and it looks fantastic.
Maybe
The use of color in the film.
maybe we should have a month of
Well,
Nick Cage.
we should. Oh, we should absolutely. We'd watch Raising Arizona.
Yeah,
Um,
Gone in
one of
60
my
Seconds.
favorite comedy movies. Yeah. What's the movie he did with Cher back in the day that everyone liked? Something Moonlight
I
or
could not
Moon.
tell you off the top of my head, but I do know what you're talking about. But
That film called Moonstruck.
Moonstruck.
I've seen a bit of that. Yeah, people love that. That's a cult classic for sure.
So that will be something that we explore in the future. If you're a Nick Cage fan, maybe you'll enjoy that. But I want to move on because once again, we got so much happening that we need to continue. Um, just broke today actually. Disney Plus's Percy Jackson series has found its star in the Adam Project's Walker Scobell. What do you think of that casting?
Looking at him. Is he the son of Poseidon? I think so.
Yeah,
This is the first that I'm hearing of this. But yeah, he. Oh, that's Percy, man. That's Percy Jackson. He's a young kid. It's not like they're casting like a 25-year-old as a teenager. This is a kid,
right.
and I think that with the popularity of both Disney Plus and the Rick Riordan series, Percy Jackson gonna grow up with this kid. Younger generations are gonna grow up with this kid as we did with Daniel Radcliffe and Harry Potter.
I think
I
it's.
like I like
Sorry, go ahead.
I like the looks of him. I've not seen the Adam Project, by the way.
I've seen bits and pieces of it. And he looked phenomenal in that film from just the small tidbits that I've seen. That movie also has Mark Ruffalo and Ryan Reynolds, and he held his own from what I had seen. I think I've seen 40 minutes of it, and that was just in passing. My family was watching it, and I was busy, but it looks like this kid. He's found the mojo, whatever it is in Hollywood that like dozens and dozens, if not thousands, of people try to find. This kid's got it.
Good.
So I'm actually
You
very
know,
excited.
I think that first Lightning Thief movie they put out. What year would that have been? Like 2010 or something?
Around that time, yeah. I was in like middle school.
If I looked it up right now on Rotten Tomatoes, they'd put that movie at like probably 35%.
I would give you an under on that.
Okay, let's see. They've got it at
I'd give it 27 because it just wasn't a good film.
49% tomato meter,
49
53%
metric,
audience score.
really?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I love it. I love the movie. I went back and watched it the other day. I should say I loved it. I went back and tried to rewatch it the other day
Hmm.
on Disney Plus. I got 15 minutes in. The Minotaur was closing in on old Percy as he approached the gates of Camp Half Blood, and I said, "I'm done. I'm watching something else. I'm gonna put The Simpsons on or something. This is a stupid movie." As a kid, I probably watched that movie. I had it on DVD, so we're talking maybe like 12 plus times. I've seen it quite a few times.
And you know what's unfortunate? I can't think of the guy that played Percy Jackson, but if he hadn't have left, they would have continued popping those movies out.
Yeah, Logan Learman.
Logan
He's
Learman.
got some pizzazz. He's got some pizzazz. Everyone's seen The Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Oh yeah, and
Um,
that is actually continue your thought, but that does bring us to another bit of news that came out recently that I actually forgot to put on the doc. But continue talking about Logan Learman.
well, I'd have to get a good memory jog to see what else he's been in. Let's take a look here. Well, Logan Learman, Perks of Being a Wallflower, and Percy Jackson. Fantastic, fantastic. It's into Yuma. That's a great western. Yeah, he's been in all. He was the kid in Hoot. I don't know if
What?
anyone has seen. Yeah, it was Logan Learman
Which character
in character.
in Hooked? The Robin Williams take on Peter Pan?
And he was in Peter Pan.
Wow, very cool. So
Very
anyway,
cool
I've
stuff.
I've I've found the information that I was hunting for, and this does add into the bit of news that we're covering here today. Speaking of perks of being a wallflower, Ezra Miller has gotten himself into
Oh,
so much trouble.
um, you know, they should know. They should know that you after maybe like the whole Chris Rock thing and the whole Will Smith thing. I don't know if it happened before or after that. You can't do anything shady if you want to be a movie star.
Right.
Just can't. Like I I don't know, Ezra. I don't know what
So
you're trying to do out here.
for those of you that don't
Actually, I'm
know,
lying. I don't even know what happened.
for you and the rest of you that don't know, um, Ezra Miller was in Hawaii and he was arrested at a bar for threatening people, and it makes me chuckle because the reason he got mad was because they were singing karaoke, and I guess he didn't like the song, and he decided to get aggressive, and he was arrested. So he gets thrown in jail, and he gets out that night, and afterwards he goes to this same couple, the same couple that was singing karaoke. He goes to their house. Let me see here. Let me finish. Because if I remember correctly, he broke into their house and threatened
Pulled
to
up to
kill
their
them.
house?
Yeah. He broke.
What?
Let me see. And I mean, the other things I'm reading too. This is from the Rolling Stone. The link will be in the description, or wherever you're listening to this, whether it's on Spotify, YouTube. The link will be there for you that wants to read it yourself. Because I'm reading this, but I'm skimming it from what I had read prior, trying to just remember. But yeah, he broke into their house and he threatened to beat them. And this couple was terrified because he was wealthy that he would try to finish the job. So yeah, he was then subsequently arrested again. And what's really worse, that what makes this worse is that this isn't the first time he's been in a bar and tried to beat people up. In I think it was Iceland, he also had a similar case, but that one was dropped. He like essentially choke slammed a woman in the bar.
I'd like to see Ezra Miller try to pull up on me in a bar Friday night out of Richmond.
No, so he, according to the Rolling Stones, one insider from Warner Brothers said even on set he was prone to frequent meltdowns, quote, and he would lose it all the time. So I mean, the DCEU is in a state of flux.
I don't
Like,
know if it
what were you saying?
I don't know if it makes me like him more or less. It's starting to sound like I would be great friends with Ezra Miller.
Yeah.
Sounds off the rails. Those are the kinds of people I generally hang out with. A lot of friends are some wild dudes. So
And that's fine
it
as
goes
long
out
as
to
they're not assaulting people on the street.
they do that too. It's fine. Everyone goes home at the end of the day, and it's just a good laugh when you wake up the next morning. But just going out to Ezra Miller, if whatever platform you may be listening to this, Ezra, you can come hang out with me anytime you want because I'm trying to see some of your antics.
I promise you, he will probably take you up on that because from the looks of it, he's not got many friends left, and on this from the cinematic point of view, there will never be another Ezra Miller Flash. If I had to guess, like I was saying, the DCEU is already in flux so much that
It will not happen.
yeah, I think that they're just gonna go with a find the best story arc and screw the whole extended universe thing and just make movies until they can't anymore. So that means no more Ezra Miller Flash. I've also heard.
They should make. I think they should make this Walker Scobell the new Flash.
Oh yeah, there you go. When he gets a little bit
There we
older,
go.
after years of success on the Percy Jackson series, he can become the Flash. And honestly, I'm not completely against that. All right, who said anything about technical difficulties? I sure didn't say anything about technical difficulties, did I, Cole?
Wasn't me.
See, that's what I'm saying, and we didn't completely move apps so that we could sound and hear each other better. You know what I mean? So now, a fun fact: Twin Peaks, the movie, okay, came
Yes.
out 32 years ago this month. I don't know which day, but it is now 32 years old, which is astronomically insane because it's a good movie. Have you ever seen Twin Peaks?
I've not seen the movie, but I've seen the series.
It's great. I've not seen. I'm in reverse. I've seen the movie, not seen the series.
Oh, you gotta see it, man.
See, I'm the world's worst with series. Like, that's the thing, is that like I love movies, but the second that I have to commit to something that's an hour long and there's like 3 seasons of them that are like 15 episodes each, I just get intimidated, and I'm like, I don't have the time for this.
I've always found that the title of the Twin Peaks film, Fire Walk with Me, that's such a poignant title.
It's so
I
cool.
wish
It's
I
so specific.
I wish I had thought of it before Lynch did in the 90s.
Right, right. Which before you were born.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Same here. So, but anyway, that is a fun fact. But here's the even more entertaining fact, and I think the more astronomically insane news of today. Film Twitter has been abuzz. On the 14th of this month, which is this Thursday, the Cannes Film Festival will unveil their list of films that they will be showing during their run. In one of those, they have said that a legendary film and TV director will be showing their new film, i.e., why David Lynch's name has been floating around the ether ever since.
When was the last David Finch film? When did
Or
that come
not
out?
Finch, Lynch.
Sorry, David Lynch.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. It's an easy mistake because one's Fincher and the other's Lynch, and they're so similar.
Yeah.
2016's or 2006's Inland Empire was the last David Lynch film to be released.
Wow.
Yeah, 16 years ago.
I've not delved into Finch.
Lynch. It's
This
okay.
is cursed.
No, it's
This segment's
no,
cursed.
it's okay.
Man.
It's okay. Shh, they don't know that. Shh. It's okay. And listen, I have only a little bit like what you said. I haven't really. I liked the movie Twin Peaks. What else did he? He did Eraserhead, if I'm not mistaken, and that was a really
I've seen that.
that's a movie.
That's a great movie.
And so yeah, it's just like he's just such an artist, he's just so good at what he does, and so anything David Lynch just makes me so excited.
Have you seen Mulholland Drive?
No, I haven't.
I haven't either. Why do we have a film podcast without either of us having seen Mulholland
See,
Drive.
here's the thing. I love cinema, and I'm actively becoming a cinemaphile, and I'm yet to be fully assimilated. So
Right, I'm in the same position,
here
the
we are.
exact same position. So we are growing cinemaphiles.
Exactly, which is amazing because that means that the people listening at home can watch us grow and, hopefully enjoy our banter back and forth as we,
And
maybe have our disagreements down the line.
maybe they can relate to us as well
Maybe, yeah.
because we haven't seen every quintessential film, every essential film, should say, in the cinematographic canon.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we're growing along with you.
And
Speaking
there's
directly to
so
the
much,
audience.
that this will never end. There's just never going to be an end to the amount of content that this podcast can cover.
Right. We will never have seen every great film.
Exactly.
Billy Ray Cyrus is in Mulholland Drive.
Interesting. I never would have imagined Billy Ray Cyrus, or what was his name now? Is it just Cyrus? Do I,
Did he change it?
do I,
He just goes by one name now,
do I
Cyrus.
remember that pop culture thing that happened not that long ago correctly? Is he just now Cyrus?
I don't know, but honestly, I don't think so. I highly doubt that. Let's give it a
That's exactly what I'm doing right now. In April 2017, Cyrus told Rolling Stone Country that on his birthday he would be known as Cyrus, or the artist formerly known as Billy Ray, after legally changing his name,
bro. He is just Cyrus now.
according to Wikipedia. So take that as you will. But that is, I just love the canon of Billy Ray Cyrus, or Cyrus, excuse me.
I think the only thing I've ever seen him act in is Hannah
Hannah
Montana.
Montana. Yeah, I'm in the same
Right.
boat. That's the point that I was trying to make is that Cyrus. It's weird to think that he is in a David Lynch film.
Right. It's very odd because like maybe to other generations he's some kind of heartthrob, but to my generation, he is a meme. He is a joke.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like Kid Rock. Like we
No,
don't
that's
really
true.
mess with old Blu-ray.
Exactly. Very factual. So on to our next bit of information. This one was really interesting to me because I particularly enjoyed these two movies. Take that as you will, but Robert Downey Jr. is set to head or produce some sort of Sherlock Holmes TV project for HBO Max. Nobody really knows what his role will be in terms of acting, if it's going to be in the same universe as his, if he's going to be Sherlock, or if he's just going to be the guy that's creating his own version separate from what he portrayed in his, I think, two movies. It's not three, right? It's just two.
It's just two.
Or
Yeah.
say I'm remembering correctly. Okay, yeah. So what do you think about this Robert Downey Jr. led Sherlock Holmes project?
I just think that every Sherlock Holmes project that I've seen that's gained massive amounts of popularity, both the Benedict Cumberbatch and the Robert Downey Jr. It's not the character. It's not they're not portraying Sherlock Holmes. They're portraying the idea of Sherlock Holmes that people have, right? That the common man has in the zeitgeist of their cultural mindset. I mean, if you've read Sherlock Holmes, uh, one of the short stories by Arthur Conan Doyle, he's stoic. Sherlock Holmes is very stoic. He doesn't engage in banter or funny quips with Watson or whoever else might be with him. It's much more serious and real detective heavy stuff.
Right.
So, am I interested in seeing this? Maybe not. I I I like John C. Riley though. If he's involved, he's actually proved himself to be a phenomenal actor. He was in The Lobster. He was in the Dewey Cox Story, which is he was the star of that, and that's one of my favorite comedy movies of all time. It's hilarious. He's been in a few more dramatic roles other than The Lobster, and he's fantastic. Robert Downey Jr. Everything he touches is gold, and I think that can go without saying. So maybe it will be good.
Right. And see, here's the thing. I have seen a little bit of Sherlock. I have to finish it. Speaking of TV shows, I don't think there's topping Benedict Cumberbatch's, but here's the thing. I feel like that iteration of Sherlock Holmes is Cumberbatch's. It feels more like. Have you ever seen Doctor Who?
Yeah. A little bit.
That is one of my all-time favorite shows. Like I religiously watch it when they come out with new episodes. I know like I know I just said all about what I said about TV shows not that long ago. Doctor Who is an exception. I love that show. And it's weird because like after watching the new Who from the 2005 and to today and all those iterations, it felt like Cumberbatch's iteration of Sherlock was more like the Doctor than it was Sherlock. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So but like in the same vein, I don't like it's weird because like after watching the first season or so of Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch and then having gone back and rewatched the Robert Downey Jr. like Robert's portrayal is weird to me. Like I like those movies, but like after seeing like Benedict kind of usurp and place himself on the like in my mind the Sherlock Holmes. Like I don't want to see Robert step back in those shoes and I want to see a different take on the character.
Right. Yeah. It's been done in, it's been redone and done in a different way that goes against the grain of the character for so long. I'm ready to see a um popular iteration of Sherlock Holmes that's true to form.
Exactly. No, I completely agree.
And they've made hundreds of them. I mean, think about how many Holmes productions that the BBC has put on over the years. These are just the blockbuster or the wildly popular iterations of the character.
From comedy to legit like crime, true crime esque. There's so many. Like if I'm not mistaken, didn't Will Ferrell play his own version with John C. Riley? Is that what you were discussing
Really?
earlier?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about Robert Downey. I'm talking about Will Ferrell. Who wants to see that? That's awful.
No, I'm saying that was a very bad movie. But like to credence what you're saying, there's been so many Sherlocks.
Yeah, that movie was like slapstick comedy.
Yeah, it's just not. It wasn't very good. It's so yeah. I think our collective agreement is that it'll be interesting to see what he portrays. But if it's the same as it has been, then it's just gonna be boring.
The detective genre, I haven't really seen it get a good kick in the pants in the past few years. Knives Out, insanely popular and rightfully so.
Love that movie.
But yeah, I can't think of any more real shifts in form that the detective genre has had. I'm sure there have been, but I have not seen them.
Right. And I think that's a good note to leave off of because like I'm very soon on this we'll be talking about Knives Out 2 and all the other projects that are coming up. Moving along, the Crow reboot, directed by Rupert Sanders, has found its Eric Daven, the guy that is finally filling in that role that has been left so wide open since the unfortunate death of Brandon Lee. And it's Bill Skarsgård of all people. What do you think of this casting?
Ooh, yeah, let's do some Skarsgård. I'm all about that. He's gonna make a perfect Crow.
I completely agree.
Perfect.
I think it's
Yeah,
a
because he
phenomenal
has
casting.
he has the facial manipulation skills of Jim Carrey
Oh yeah.
almost. Like he is, yeah, his face is like a rubber mask that he can manipulate
Like every
into.
time I see Bill Skarsgård, like it's like you said the rubber mask, like it's almost like a visceral experience. Like you watch him and you just like you'd say his face is like rubber, but he just like metamorphosizes into the character. And it's like you said Jim Carrey. I don't think I've seen like I don't even think Jim Carrey has that kind of that whatever it is. I don't even know what the correct term to call it, but like it's going to be really interesting to see how Skarsgård can transform himself yet again. I think the only person that comes to mind is like Christian Bale and his body transformations throughout the years.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So yeah,
But
I'm very excited.
you know, not the biggest Crow guy, not the biggest Crow guy, and maybe I should be, but I don't get the appeal. And I love gothic.
Yeah.
I love horror. I love everything like that. I love anything dark. But the Crow almost gives me. I have the same feelings about the Crow as I do the first Blade movie.
Really?
Yeah, it's a bit over the top. I hate to say it, and it's a bit cheesy.
Well, as is most, if not all. pre 2008 superhero films,
Right,
especially
absolutely. Yeah.
anti-hero.
Oh yeah. So maybe I'm giving it too much flack where that might not be due, but I'm always gonna pass on a Crow movie. But now that you've told me that Skarsgård is gonna be the new Eric Draven, then maybe I'll see it.
Yeah, I think that my only concern with this movie is and not to question Rupert Sanders as director, because like I mean I get obviously him to have the name director, he's got to have a lot of skill. But looking at the movies he's done, he did Snow White and the Huntsman, which is a, I mean, it's an all right film. It's pretty, I don't want to say forgettable, but like it's not one that you would think like when you see it on his resume, you're not jumping off the page to be like, oh my gosh, I want that guy. And then the other one he did that is like first of when you look him up is Ghost in the Shell, and that movie was awful.
Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, was it that the one I'm thinking of? I know he directed that. Is it exactly what?
Let's see. Ghost in the Shell. Oh yeah,
That,
that
that
movie.
one was the one where
Ew.
they like yeah Scarlett Johansson and yeah.
Oh, I mean, hey, listen, man. I don't know because I mean, there's some scenes in that where Scarlett has no clothes on,
Yeah,
and I'm all about that.
yeah, I mean I understand, but that doesn't make the movie. There are movies for that reason, but not this one. Um,
They're known under a different name.
yeah, much different, and we do not cover that. But like I said, Ghost in the Shell was not very good, in my opinion. And so like it is written by Zach Balin, who did King Richard, the movie that got Will Smith his Oscar nominee or Oscar win, I should say. So it's I think the writing and the casting will be what saves it, but I'm interested to see if how Rupert Sanders will add his flair, because the two movies that like jump like his two biggest productions, neither one of them are like huge on my book, if that makes sense.
Well, have you ever read The Things They Carried?
Yes, I have actually.
Yeah, well, Rupert Sanders. There's a movie for The Things They Carried directed by Sanders, and it's in pre-production right now.
Interesting, because
Some of the actors in the film. Let me list them off. You got as the lead or the top build right now is Angus Cloud, who played Fezco in Euphoria.
mhm.
Um, he's great. He's fantastic. He's so likable. You can't dislike him. Ty Sheridan, I didn't know who that was, but he's actually the lead in Ready Player One, which
Huh.
I love that
It's a
movie.
pretty good movie.
Yeah,
That's Steven Spielberg. I love Steven Spielberg. I have my own take on him, but I'll
right.
save that for the month of Spielberg whenever that happens.
I think we both like Spielberg a lot.
We do.
Pete Davidson is also
And he's
in.
gonna be in the things they carried.
Yeah, I mean, the things they carried is, I mean, it's an interesting book, and there's certainly humor in the book,
Right. Well,
but this is a dramatic film.
for those that have never read the things they carried, number one, you should read it. And two, it's very interesting because it's actually a collection of short stories. Um, and they're not really told in any particular order. But I think what's the most interesting part is that it's written. So the story is based in Vietnam, and the author and the main character have the same name, but the author has gone on record and said that they're not the same person. So when you're reading it, you get this feeling that they're firsthand events, but the author himself had said, and I can't think of the author's name. I'll actually looked it up real quick, but the author has said that that's not. I imagine that there's a lot of inspiration from these stories. Um, but like it's super like at times gory. Tim O'Brien is the author's name. It's it
Right.
it is funny at times, and it's really sad because like while I said that they're out of order, there is some sort of like storyline. So it is like it's very much worth reading. But it's really sad because you follow this platoon as they traverse the Vietnamese wilderness and fight in the Vietnam War, and it's great book. And so you bring up like the fact that they're making a movie. Number one, my first thought when you said that was how are they going to pull that off, because they're going to have to make some sort of central story because there's so much going on, right?
Well, they'll probably do what they did with World War Z, and just center it around one of the stories, one of the
Which
anthologies in the greater
I
work.
feel like that will ruin the story.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, the whole effect of the things they carried is meant to be that these are stories that are taking place apart from one another, but there's such a level of connectivity between them.
Exactly. And like some of the stories, it's so human and it's so sad and it's so like, so if they do that, I will very much so be angry with this, but I'm still very interested to see. So who knows? Maybe this is Sanders like this movie, the Crow reboot and the things they carried, maybe this is going to be what propels him to director stardomhood, and I will change everything I've said, and then the Snow White and the Huntsman and the Ghost in the Show will just be smudges on an otherwise gleaming record.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So moving on, another interesting casting, and I'm very interested to see what you think about this. Vin Diesel on Instagram, of all places, announces the next star to take their role, their foothold in the mantle of the Fast and Furious franchise in Captain Marvel herself, Brie Larson.
Brie Larson, Brie Larson. What? She's gonna be the lead?
She's going to be she's in the family.
Oh,
I don't
Brie
know if she's
Larson.
obviously it's Vin Diesel, so she's not going to be the lead, but like she's going to be one of the central characters apparently.
I'm never happy to see Brie Larson. I'm never like, oh yes, Brie Larson is in this film.
Explain
I'm so
yourself.
excited.
Explain yourself. Like why? Go deeper.
Uh, maybe I'm just throwing these claims out. I don't have anything to back them up. Um, I'm looking at her films, and she's been in every movie that's come out since like 2010. Every film.
She's been in a lot of them, that's for sure. A lot of good ones.
Maybe I just don't like Captain Marvel. Maybe that was the only thing that I disliked. I don't even mind her in Endgame, Infinity War. I mean, she's not in Infinity War, but yeah,
Here's I don't have a strong gripe against Brie Larson. I mean, like there was that gossip that she's hard to work with. There's nothing to prove that because no one said anything. Um, so like I'm not gonna say that that's why. Like I don't dislike her. I don't really have any strong feelings for or against her. I'm not gonna say I loved Captain Marvel, but I felt like it was just kind of your average superhero flick.
it's
Um,
just average. Yeah,
yeah.
I would say it's less than average. It's not a compelling story.
I didn't say the film itself was average. I said the story itself was average.
Mm,
Make that distinction. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but like I don't dislike Captain Marvel. Like I don't dislike Brie Larson. I just feel like the writing for that was kind of bland.
yeah,
Um,
they made some decisions with sort of like the power scaling of Captain Marvel that
yeah.
don't really make too much sense in the greater universe of the MCU. But you know,
See, I'm
tomato, tomato.
so in the announcement that Vin Diesel posted to his personal Instagram account. I'm not gonna read verbatim what he said, but it's very it's kind of cringy. It's a picture of him and Larson laughing, and he calls her an angel, um, and talks about the love and laughter, and talk about the mythology of the Fast and Furious franchise, and talks about how she's beautiful and smart, and how she's in the family. And it's it. I mean, like it. That's I just essentially summed up for to you what he said, and like I said, it makes me cringe. But as much as I want the Fast and Furious franchise to just die, because like after the first two, it just became the same movie until they went to space. Um, I'm not a Fast and Furious fan, and
Me neither.
I never will be. But
Never was, never will be, man.
I'm happy for Brie Larson. I'm happy for Vin Diesel that he can keep finding these people that will be in his movies. Jason Momoa is the villain in the next Fast and Furious movie, Fast 10. Um,
Ooh, 10.
yep,
10.
yep. Which is yeah. Um, this movie franchise has been alive almost as long as I have. I'm pretty sure it came out in like '01, so I was alive before it. And in the 22 years, or well, I will be 22 this year, but in the 21 years or so it's been around, they have popped out, going to be 10 of them. which is insane.
10 movies. Well, I lump the Fast and Furious movies in with like Transformers and like maybe like the GI Joe
Oh,
movies.
please don't say anything bad about Transformers. I have such a childhood love for them. That is their guilty
Uh,
pleasure.
I just think, well,
Don't
maybe
don't
yeah,
don't you
like you
dare
said,
lump Fast and Furious with
childhood.
Transformers.
Yeah, well, in my head, I just think that if you're an adult and you're like super excited over the next Transformers movie, you're a dunce.
I'm not gonna say I get super excited, but the inner 10-year-old in me does enjoy seeing a new one.
Okay, I mean that's fair. Like I like a lot of really bad stuff, so we'll agree to disagree.
Okay. Okay. All right. And on that note, we'll move on to the next segment. Or well, not next segment. Next tidbit of information. Zack Snyder has a new Netflix film that's in production coming out called Rebel Moon. It recently added Carrie Elwes, Elwes, Ooze. I can't pronounce names, and I'm sorry. Carrie Stoll and Mikael Usman, as well as Alfonso Herrera. So I'm not really big on any of
What's it
them.
about?
So interesting you ask. Snyder came up with this film concept and he wanted it to be a Star Wars film. He pitched it to George Lucas and then George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney and any Zack Snyder led Star Wars film went out the window. So keep that in mind when I'm telling you the synopsis. The film is basically about your peaceful colony on the outskirts of a galaxy of some sort, and then this other very angry group of aliens shows up named Regent Belisarius, and they decide no longer shall you be peaceful, and they just start attacking. So in turn, the galaxy sends a young woman to gather up as an army of as many alien races as she can find to fight this Regent Belisarius, sorry. But also, her past is very secretive, so we don't know where she comes from. She's just sent because of whatever, and so we learn that throughout the story. If you can't tell from me being very cynical, I do not think this movie has much promise. I'm not a big Zack Snyder guy.
Um,
Like, I'll be
looking
real.
at the screen caps, it looks epic, truly epic. But I'm gonna see it. I'll watch it in the theater. None of the actors I have really heard of. Um, but I'm always down for a nice space opera. Always down.
See, that will be what saves it.
And
That will genuinely be what saves it.
yeah, sci-fi epics.
Yeah.
They're often bad, but even the mediocre of them are still an entertaining watch, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So,
I Googled it, and the first thing I see is Rebel Moon reportedly a 2-part epic from Screen Rant.
ooh.
So hopefully,
Well, I mean, Zack Snyder's picked up so much of a fan base over the past couple years.
understandably so. Like, understandably. Like, he's.
Oh yeah, yeah, I get it for sure. Zack Snyder's great.
Like, there are some movies that I really like from him, but oftentimes they're not. Like, this is probably going to get a lot of hate, but I do not care because this is how I view it. I view Zack Snyder in the same breath and vein that I view Michael Bay. When they come out with good movies, their movies are pretty good. I do think Zack Snyder's a lot better than Michael Bay. Let me make that distinction. But when they come out with just movies, like they come out with so many movies that that most, if not, I shouldn't say it like that. 60% of their movies are going to be bad. I'll just say it.
Okay,
Like Army of the Dead that came out last year that got all those views. I thought it was
I
trash.
saw it in the theater. I saw it in the theater.
I thought it was
I didn't
awful.
like it at all.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I thought it was awful. Like you look at the other ones, like he did Batman vs Superman, an awful movie. We literally discussed it earlier. It's on the list of like highest or the largest drop in its second week of being around. So like it's like I mean I won't blame him for Justice League, not his fault. Like I have gripes with Man of Steel. I like that movie, but like I felt like the story died 3/4 of the way through, and then it went through this weird lull, and then it fixed itself. You know what I mean? So like I don't know. Like obviously you got Watchmen 300.
Yeah, I mean, come on,
Yeah, like
Watchmen.
Watchmen.
That's not just a good movie. That's a great movie.
No, I love Watchmen. I do. Like that's like I like Wonder Woman was pretty good. I don't think he directed, but I do think he was a producer. Um, he comes out with good stuff sometimes. Like I think his Snyder cut of the Justice League was really good. But
He's Michael Bay.
That's exactly like that's what I'm saying. I just feel like he comes out with so many bad ones that when his good ones come out, like I want to roll my eyes because like they all look the same. Like he's got such a distinct look that it's sometimes it gets hard to for me looking on the outside for me to distinguish what will be good and bad because he's come out with so many bad ones. And another thing too, just a personal tidbit, I'm a big practical effects guy, and Zack Snyder could not be further from the practical effects.
It's all CGI.
That's what I'm saying. And so like I think that like is just a bias I have and I apologize, but like I'm not a big CGI guy. If CGI is used correctly, I enjoy it, but like I'm huge in practical effects. I love Christopher Nolan. I love Stanley Kubrick. And so like when I see a Zack Snyder film, a lot of the times I just get sickened by how much CGI he has, even if the story is really good. Like I love 300. Sometimes the CGI in that movie made me cringe.
Yeah, well, 300's an old movie.
I
That's
know
the
it's
thing.
old. I know, but like I feel like there could have been more in terms of practical to have made that more attainable. And a lot of times,
Right.
these production companies will spend more money for CGI than they would have done at practical, and practical always looks better.
Always, without a doubt.
So
I
like,
do think though that in the Snyder cut of Justice League, Steppenwolf is one of the best CGI villains that
yeah,
I've ever seen in
that's
a film.
that. I mean, there are obvious differences. Like there are little tidbits that are really good. I like Steppenwolf. He was awesome. Like I said, I really liked the Snyder cut of the Justice League. It actually did the movie like it was well. It was very well made. But yeah, I like sci-fi epics. Like I said, I love 2001: A Space Odyssey. I'm a huge Star Wars guy. Um, so I like these, like you said, sci-fi epics. I think that was the perfect way to distinguish what he's trying to make. I just I don't know if I trust Zack Snyder.
Kind of finicky, isn't it?
Like, just imagine if Michael Bay got a hold of a Star Wars film.
Oh yeah, it would be a trailer park train wreck.
That's what I'm saying. So like that's kind of how like
Yeah.
that's my worry is that like I'm happy Zack Snyder's not doing Star Wars, but the fact that he's trying to make this saga, I don't know what it will turn into.
Who's your dream Star Wars director?
Oh, well, I don't think it has to be a dream because he's already doing it. Dave Filoni is so good at what he
Dave Filoni. Yeah,
like that's like I don't think there is no one that I can say that would be any better than him.
he just knows Star Wars
Well,
far greater than anyone else.
and this thought just come to my head. It's not something I've thought of before, but I would be like I want just because Star Wars is such a hodgepodge of anything and everything. I want to see a Star Wars horror film. I don't know why. I just want to see what that would look like. And we're going to talk a lot more about him, but can you imagine a Robert Eggers Star Wars horror film?
I could see it. For some reason, the only thing that comes to my mind are like an Ewok horror film.
An Ewok
Don't know
horror.
why. Yeah,
I was thinking like something with the Wookiees
yeah. The
on
Wookiees are
Kashyyyk.
the Wookiees on Kashyyyk are the protagonists,
Yeah,
and
like I'm thinking like this is
Bosk's Bosk's species. Can't remember what they're called for the life of me. The lizard men have come to collect their hides.
right. Like I'm thinking post Revenge of the Sith at like as like they're trying to stop from being just getting completely massacred from the stormtroopers. Like that, I think that would be interesting to see what someone like a Robert Eggers would do. But we're gonna move on because I'm sure that a lot of people are cringing right now with the thought of what we're doing. We're just daydreaming. Um,
Yeah,
the
ain't
last
no bond.
the last tidbit of news that we have, and this one will go by pretty quickly. Beverly Hills Cop 4 has been announced.
Ooh,
Returning Eddie Murphy after in the last time that Agent Foley graced our screens was with the third installment in 1994.
wow.
28 years ago, we got the worst installment. It's an awful movie. Beverly
I
Hills
didn't
Cop
know there
3.
was a third one. I didn't know it existed.
Yeah, it's very bad, and that's like I enjoyed the first one, and then I don't even remember the second one. It's been like I've just it's kind of one of those things that you watch growing up. And then
I really, really liked that first one though.
I remember the third one being a thing, and I just remembered hating it. So like I don't know, like if I feel like a project that has director turnover before it's even begun production is doomed to fail. And that's exactly what's happened with Beverly Hills Cop 4. So originally, the directing duo of I'm gonna butcher these, and I'm sorry. Adil El Arbi and Bilal Falah were set to direct, and then they left for Warner Brothers' Batgirl.
Ooh,
So
ooh.
they now have dubbed Mark Malloy be the next director to head this project. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Mark Malloy, because I didn't before this, and he's not got a really strong track record. Like he's very very like new. I would say I don't want to call him new. He doesn't have a big filmography.
What's he done?
It's so hard. Like when you look him up, he doesn't even have like a film thing, like a list of films. In 19, he did Apple at Work, The Understudy, or sorry, not The Understudy, The Underdogs. My bad. He
Oh,
did GoDaddy, Tattoo Shop, Nissan Shoulders of Giants. I think these are commercials. I don't
he's
know.
done commercials. He makes car commercials.
I think yeah. I think that's
Well, I mean,
no. It says a short. It might be like just a short film done for these places, and so like, but that's all he's done, and so I just don't know what this will turn into.
I doubt it will even grace um the eyes of anyone who has a real taste in film. Nobody's gonna watch that. Beverly Hills Cop 4.
Yeah, I just feel bad because Eddie Murphy, man.
Man, I'll tell you what. I don't know much about Eddie Murphy. I mean, how could you not? I mean, I've seen tons. The ones that I really like: Trading Places, Beverly Hills Cop, Coming to America. Those are like the classic three. Um, Eddie Murphy's stand-up specials from when he was like 21, right?
They're
You had
hilarious.
Raw, you had Delirious, you had one more as well. Yeah, man, that I'm a big comedy fan, right? I love stand-up, and I know a lot about stand-up, and those probably both fit into my top five
Mm-hmm.
like stand-up specials of all time. They're so funny. They're so funny.
Oh no, they're good. Yeah, and yeah, I just like I said, like for those reasons, like those comedy specials, and just I think obviously Shrek. You can't go on without Shrek
Of
and Eddie
course.
Murphy, and it's just like I don't know. He's not been in the limelight a lot lately, and I want to see him have if this is it, if this is the last we see of Eddie Murphy before he calls it a career, I want it to be good. So like,
He'll be around. He'll be around forever, man. Eddie Murphy, he can't die.
I hope not, but and
He'll always have a fan base.
that's the end of our news for this week of cinema. Anything else you want to add? I mean, we have some interesting little. I got one more interesting note if you want to go over that before we move on to the Lighthouse breakdown and whatever.
Let's go ahead with what you have to say.
So Mads Mikkelsen, I love that man. He's one of I
I
think
do too.
I dub him as one of the best actors in the world today.
I would agree.
He was recently asked his thoughts on method acting, and you shared your opinion on Jared Leto, and Jared Leto is very well known for his method acting. In fact, known to go too far with his method acting, I would say.
Yeah, he's a weird guy. He's a creep. I don't like him.
Mads Mikkelsen called method acting BS, straight up. He said, and I don't have the quote pulled up, but he essentially said, "How can you give yourself to a film like that and it be bad?" And he's like, if he's like, then how? And then he said something to the effect of, then how did you stay with it? Why'd you commit that much? And coming from one of the best actors in the world, as I just said, I can't help but take his word for it, because we've heard a lot about method acting, especially in the last 15 years. I would say with the death of Heath Ledger,
Right.
and
Daniel Day Lewis is a big name when you think of method acting.
exactly.
He might be the one that actually pulls it off the best because Daniel Day Lewis, I would put him up there with Mads Mikkelsen as being one of the best actors of all time.
Right. And so it's just
So
sorry, go ahead.
go on.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Well, I was just gonna say we've seen how it works. We've seen when it works,
Mm-hmm.
and we've also seen when it doesn't work, when it's just weird and it turns people off.
Right. And I think the point I was gonna make is that, like, to Mad's credit, and I think this is kind of what he's trying to get through to people. If it's a bad movie, right? Like it's just like it is Jared Leto in the Suicide Squad. what was all that work for? Living up to be that character just for people to say that you were awful? Like, I feel like that takes a toll on somebody.
And I think at some point while you're like preparing to be the Joker and you're like eating glass and like drinking kerosene or like whatever he probably had to
Sending
do. I don't
weird
know.
letters to your coworkers.
Yeah, cutting off toes and ears and whatever he was up to. At some point, in your 6-month journey of, transformation, you're going to realize, hey, this isn't a good script. This isn't a good character.
Mm-hmm. I
Like,
completely agree.
we could talk about Joker stuff all day,
I
truly.
I agree, but looking at our timer here, we've been going on pretty long about movie stuff, so now it's time to actually sit down, focus on one piece of cinema and art. That is the next segment. Tell our people what it's about.
The Lighthouse, Robert Eggers' second film, The Lighthouse. It is one of the greatest pieces of Gothic fiction that I've ever seen or read. So a lot of people like it. A lot of people sing its praises, and rightfully so.
So, The Lighthouse. How do we describe it? I want you to go over the synopsis. I want you to give your take on the story as best as you can. In however long it takes you. Go.
Okay. I'm up for the job, sure. So it is the late 1800s. It's New England. Waves are crashing all around, and a young man named Ephraim Winslow is a new lighthouse keeper. It is his first job as a wiki, as they're called in the film, and he is under the watching eye of Thomas Wake, who is an old man played by Willem Dafoe, and he is a sea veteran. He was a sailor for years and years, but he walks with a limp now. He has a wooden leg, and he states that life as a wiki or a lighthouse keeper better suits his disability, so he can no longer live at sea. But he's obsessed with the sea, and he is called to the sea, as he states many times. And he speaks like a caricature of of a sailor. Everything, every line almost that he has somehow involves the sea. So Wake, he does a lot of he's a gross man. He's a disgusting man. He farts and he talks in his sleep, and he's just nasty. And Robert Pattinson is disgusted by him in the beginnings of the film. Um, so throughout Robert Pattinson's employment there, Wake gives him a massive, a massive amount of work to do. He works from daylight to dusk in extremely physically strenuous tasks, right? I mean, he's working like a dog, right? While Wake sort of lays around and or stands around and yells at him. So you have from the very beginning, you have a real power dynamic and some real hatred brewing, right? So Wake, Willem Dafoe's character, he mentions that the last wiki or the last you know you know
Help. The
caretaker
second
of
hand.
the
Yes.
last, yeah, the last second hand had gone crazy and was raving about sea creatures and mermaids and all these different supernatural entities, and he had to be fired. We later find out that, well, what actually happened to the last wiki. You can go ahead and explain that.
Yeah, and that's up for debate. I think to continue to pick up where you were what you were putting down to keep this thing rolling is a lot of weird stuff starts happening. See, from the very get go, when Robert Pattinson's character finds his bed, he finds a wooden doll of a mermaid or a siren, and that becomes a really key piece of his character throughout the rest of the film. As like Cole had been describing, Wake has just he talks nonstop this really old Atlantic sea jargon throughout the film, trying to teach him, i.e., Robert Pattinson's character, all this stuff. And Pattinson starts seeing really weird imagery. He sees a siren like on the side of the beach. At first, he thinks it's just a woman, and when he goes over there and takes the seaweed off of her as she lies on the beach side, he sees her tail and he runs away, and a bunch of other things. He sees, and he wakes up from a nightmare after seeing Willem Dafoe's character essentially turn into an octopus at the top of the lighthouse. Um, it's really interesting, and to get to the part that Cole was describing about the former secondhand, in one of his states, he goes to find food because they get stranded on this island of this lighthouse. They're supposed to be there for 4 weeks.
He goes to a lobster trap.
Yeah, he goes for a lobster trap. After trying to think of the best way to describe this here. In week like 8 of their stay, he goes to pull up a lobster trap and he finds a head of a man with no eye, as the man that was once the second hand was described to have one eye. And the movie progresses from there. That's near the end. I think we're doing a pretty, I don't want to say a poor job of describing this movie, but so much goes down, so much happens, and you have to watch it. And I think one thing that we have to point out here is the one-eyed seagull.
Yes, absolutely.
So
The
those,
seagulls.
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. You go ahead.
Well, the seagulls in the film are stated by Wake as to be the souls of dead sailors that have passed on, or been engulfed by the sea. And there is a one-eyed seagull that that Robert Pattinson's excellently portrayed character is taunted by towards the middle of the film, and it's a one-eyed gull that is constantly there in his gaze. So upon being worked to the point of desperation and the point of extreme fatigue, Robert Pattinson's character takes the one-eyed gull and smashes it across a cistern that lies on the island to collect water. He kills the seagull in probably the best acted sequence in the film. You can really see.
Despite Willem Dafoe's character urging him not to kill gulls for the reason said that the seagulls are the souls of the dead sailors before him, and that killing a gull is very bad.
And this is almost stated. This is probably stated 3 times,
right,
in the film
leading
before.
Up to this point.
Right, yeah, it's really pushed into the head of Pattinson and both the audience that if you kill a gull, there will be extremely bad luck. And right after Pattinson's character kills the seagull, a brutal storm begins to come to pass on the island,
which is why they can't leave. As
right,
we
this is
described earlier.
Yeah, help was supposed to come after a month for Pattinson to be sent off the island, and another second man wiki would be taking his place. But the storm comes, and it's so powerful that the boat cannot arrive.
And really, after that moment, like we described, how Pattinson was already he's a loose hinge. He was already kind of mentally not there. After this so-called bad omen occurs where he kills the gull, it just takes his turn. We talked about him seeing the siren. We talked about him kind of seeing things in his dreams and in his sleep, and you just watch as he becomes more and more unhinged. With the movie progressing to, long story short, time kind of escapes Howard, or his name is, as we learn, Ephraim Winslow is actually the name of the man that the now named Thomas Howard, who is still Robert Pattinson's character, killed in his previous life, and he took the guy's name, or I should say killed, let die is a better term. And he took the name to start a new life, and he confessed, and there was this huge thing from Willem Dafoe about why'd you spill your beans. And to be fair, I would also be very, in an uncomfortable situation if my the guy I was stuck on an island with confessed to essentially murder. But I think now that we have described this movie, because after that, the Defoe's character ends up getting an axe to the skull, and Pattinson walks up to the light, looks into it, laughs, and then falls down the stairs, breaking his leg, and then the movie ends with him being eaten alive by seagulls. I think it's time to get into the theories.
Let's do
So here's the thing. So
it.
much happens, and I had my first theory. The second that the credits started rolling, I thought it was this, and I thought it was this alone. I felt that the movie, despite its and our horrible rendition of trying to go over it, I felt that everything we've seen throughout that movie, from the mermaid to Defoe's transformation to even him seeing Ephraim Winslow, him being Robert Pattinson's character, seeing the man that he let die around the island. I thought that that was just the psyche of a man breaking. I felt like he was breaking before he got on the island. I felt that him finding the mermaid doll in his bed to wake Defoe's character describing how the guy before him went mad, said this, this, and this, and I felt like that kind of geared him towards mentally this state of like, kind of like a product of your surroundings, and that was why he saw what he saw, and it's nothing more than just like superstition and this crazy man who ends up being eaten alive because he, can't find food and he stays outside and the gulls eat him.
Plus, he also kills another man. He kills Willem Dafoe's character.
Exactly.
This state of mania has left him to commit his second murder of his life. And what can we say? The real Ephraim Winslow was he was probably in the same position that Willem Dafoe's character was in. He was a boss that was a bit too hard on Robert Pattinson's Howard character, and Pattinson goes crazy because of it. He's not good under pressure, and it ends up, you know, turning his brain into, Sour Patch Kids, and he believes that his he tends to believe that the man that's causing him to work is some sort of involved in the supernatural somehow.
Right. And I think it's interesting that you say that this man has pushed him over the edge. While I don't think you're wrong, there are a bunch of other theories that we're about to get into. So the other theory that popped up that's very popular is that Howard, i.e., Robert Pattinson, is in purgatory for killing.
That's the one I subscribe to.
Yeah, and I think I've come around to that one as well. There are two different lanes in this same theory, though. The first is that, obviously, like I just said, Pattinson's in purgatory, and that the one-eyed gull is the one-eyed former second hand, and everything that you see is just him and his punishment. It's very straightforward, and that's not bad, but I like the second version of this a lot better, and it makes a lot of sense when you look over some of the details. The other one is that both Howard and Wake are the same man. And I feel
Ooh.
like there's a lot of information and a lot of detail that proves that correct, and that's the one you just said, the one that you subscribe to. That's where I lie. Is that this is the purgatory of one man, hence why they both have the same name. You've got Thomas Wake and Thomas Howard. They both talk about killing a man, or at least mainly Howard, but Howard accuses Wake of killing his former second man. I think one can say that those two people are that those people are the same, because Willem Dafoe's character, there's never ever really evidence other than Pattinson pulling up the head, and that could, you could chuck that up to just being another thing he saw, because at that point he had seen so many things. And so you continue down this path. Like I said, their names were the same. They both had quote unquote killed a man. And this was what really got me. This was the big thing. Throughout the film, Willem Dafoe's character walks with a peg leg. He walks with a limp. He always and always has that leg, and it comes up multiple times. Dafoe himself, his character, had stated multiple different reasons for having the leg, so the audience and Pattinson never really know why he walks with the limp, how he got it, where it came from. And a very interesting detail, I think, that cannot be overlooked. Or, well, two details in one scene. At the very end, when Pattinson is just maniacally laughing in probably one of the most unnerving settings I've seen in a long time, right? One of the most unnerving scenes I've seen in so long. He's laughing into the light, slips, he falls down the stairwell, back down to the bottom of the lighthouse, and you hear a crack because he broke his leg.
Damn. Could
I
be.
love it. What you say?
I love it. Yeah. That could be the most correct interpretation. I like that a lot, and I find that that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And the other one is that or the other piece of information is that near the end when you watch him being eaten alive, his eye is missing. So I think a really fun like detail that I saw somebody try to like what's the word I'm thinking of here? A really interesting perspective that someone took was that the seagull with the one eye wasn't the one-eyed second hand. It was actually him from the future trying to warn himself from the past. Remember, seagulls are have the souls of dead sailors in them. Robert Pattinson dies, and he, as a seagull, tries to warn himself of the impending doom because he's in purgatory with himself of an older generation. I just think that's so well put.
My mind is blown right now. My mind is absolutely blown. Wow. Wow. So many different entities and creatures with one eye. Both the previous wiki, Pattinson, as well as the seagull have one eye. And I think that's a great way of tying it together. So, but under that theory, then um, the one-eyed wiki before Pattinson is just not really a part of it.
I don't know. See, that's something that I kind of bounce back and forth with. I don't think that he's just not a part of it. I think the whole point of his character, I think, is to number one. I can see Robert Eggers trying to just throw a monkey wrench for discussion because obviously he wanted this to be super open ended. So maybe he just made the guy have one eye so we could have this very debate, right?
Almost like a red herring.
Yeah. So I feel like that's more what that is. And it's so tough to put because it could go so many different ways. Um, I I think that this second hand was meant to be the older version of this character's like the same person almost. So you know how Ephraim Winslow was Howard's Robert Pattinson's person that he killed, right?
Right.
I feel like this second hand before Howard got there was Defoe's character's version of that.
Right. Yeah. It's a foil.
Yes.
It's the exact juxtaposition
Yes, they're just, I
of
think that's meaning to prove that they're the same. And like I said, Robert Eggers threw in the eye missing as a, like you said, a red herring, just to throw a wrench into debate.
yeah, well that really does further the point that they're the same person. They both have this victim that keeps, popping up, whether it be in conversation, their minds, or in hallucinations.
Right.
Um I see the way I took it, and people have talked about this online when I researched it, after I'd seen the film, but it came to me right as I'd finished seeing the film for the second time. Um was that the I agree that Pattinson is perhaps in purgatory, but I think it's more of a test. I think it's more of uh, almost like Winslow or Thomas Wake rather. Defoe's character is a prosecutor, and he's trying to get a confession out of Robert Pattinson's character in this strange, like we said, purgatory environment, and all of the hallucinations and the things from Pattinson's past that keep popping up, plus the endless work and the endless torment by Wake are all somehow in some sort of metaphysical way far greater than our comprehension are designed to get this confession out of Pattinson. And then right afterwards, why'd you spill your beans? Why'd you spill your beans? After he confesses to letting the real Ephraim Winslow die, that's when the action really starts to pick up, and the characters are, well, the character of Willem Dafoe is shortly after he's destroyed because he has no further use to whatever being is orchestrating this trial. And then shortly after, upon reaching the top of the lighthouse and falling to his death, that is his condemnation. That's his charge.
So, as in the light that he sees and laughs at and then slips, you could say that instead of him slipping, that's more him getting expelled to hell.
Right. Yeah. You're all the way at the top and you see this light, and then you fall immediately right back down.
Yeah, I really like that. That does explain a lot, and like that's one I hadn't even thought of, and that is such a like you were describing how what I had thought or what I had seen. I like that a lot, but like there's one scene, and this is just gonna how it's gonna go with this, because there's so many scenes, and a lot of these, like you said, they probably can be red herrings. Another one that a scene that I can't wrap my head around is the one where Howard is pushing the boat, the lifeboat, out to go to sea,
Right.
and Wake runs up behind him with an axe, breaks the boat, and then chases Howard back into the house. And when he gets in there, he plunges the axe into the table, and he starts talking to him, and he starts talking about how he's insane, or Howard, or Wake to Howard, who just ran away for his life from the axe man. He's telling him about how he's crazy, about how he's lost it, and then Defoe's character does something really interesting. He flips the script and he looks at Pattinson and he says, "You chased me with an axe. You broke it."
Oh yeah. Ooh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And
That's gaslighting. That's what I think. I think it's
you think
gaslighting.
that's just straight up gaslighting? See, well, he says a line that makes me want to go back to what I was saying, because you almost had me. You almost had me and made me flip my script completely. Till I thought of this scene. Because, think about it. What are both their names?
Thomas.
They're both named Tommy. And Defoe looks at Pattinson and his character says, "You chased old Tommy with an axe." And when you
Right.
think of it, it's correct in both ways.
Ooh, yeah.
It,
Oh yeah.
it doesn't matter which character chases the other. The statement, "You chased old Tommy with an axe," is factual,
Right.
which
That I mean,
makes me lean back towards the first one.
here's my idea on that. I don't really know. I think we can leave it up to this leaves it open to many interpretations. There's no concrete answer. But what does that scene remind you of?
Which one?
What? Just think
Just
real
that one?
hard.
The one we just talked about?
When Pattinson is carrying an axe across the beach, chasing chasing Thomas Wake after the boat is smashed up with an axe. What film
I
in
can tell you the film that it makes me think of instantly, and it's funny you say that because the second I got done saying it, I said it was esque of this director. Are you talking about The Shining?
I'm talking about The Shining.
Yeah.
That is an homage to The Shining.
Oh,
If you look at the gait that 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 Robert Pattinson takes, the way he walks with the axe across the beach, um chasing Thomas Wake, it is exactly how Jack Torrance walks with the axe.
right.
The only escape route, the boat, was destroyed in a similar manner that the snowmobile in The Shining is destroyed. I don't know what is being said here, but I do know that because of that in my head, that is concrete evidence that this is Robert Eggers' version of The Shining.
See, what's hilarious, what's so funny, and we've not looked any of this up. This is literally like we haven't discussed this point beforehand, so it's hilarious that you make that point because the second that that movie ended, when I was watching it, I said this is Stanley Kubrick esque. Like
Right.
that's
Oh
exactly
yeah.
what this feels like. It felt like a Stanley Kubrick film through and through, and it's so funny that you make that point for that reason alone because once again, I hadn't told you that. We hadn't rehearsed this beforehand, and it's so funny that like and I know that like it's kind of I don't want to say it's the public opinion that it's very Kubrick-esque. It's very well known it's like Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah,
But
but I haven't seen anyone make the distinction that it's like The Shining.
it is very much Shining like, and there are so many scenes you can pick apart from each movie that make no sense until you go back and you really try to do a deep dive, which really can fly over the average viewer's head that just kind of watch it to watch it. They're not watching it to dive. And it just
Well,
for that reason it'll get ridiculed, but it's so good.
well, we could talk about The Shining all day. I have a theory that will blow your mind about that. But should I say that another scene in The Shining that mirrors one in The Lighthouse is when, it's sort of at the climax. Wendy runs up the stairs. She looks over, to make a long story short. She looks to the right, and there's a bear giving fellatio to a man on the
Yes.
bed, right? It's a man in a
Yes.
bear suit, right? And
Yes.
that's kind of like Kubrick throws it in there, and it just sweeps you off your feet because it has nothing to do with the narrative. It has nothing to do with anything. It's just super creepy, right?
Right.
I have a theory that we will go over on this podcast about what that means. I didn't make the theory, but it's the only one that makes sense.
As do I. What's funny is that I'm pretty sure we're gonna have the same point, but like you said, we can't go over Kubrick. We cannot make this jump, even though it's so enticing and it's right there. We can't because this is the month of Eggers.
This is the month of Eggers, but the scene in Eggers' film that is directly paralleled with that is the dog scene. Is the scene in which Pattinson walks Thomas Wake like a dog
Makes him
and
bark and
buries him
everything.
alive, makes him bark, buries him alive while Wake is reciting a beautiful monologue, obviously about the sea.
Right.
But and that's like right at the end of the movie. And there's really no explanation as to what it means, why it was included. And I'd like to hear some of your thoughts on that.
I mean, it's hard to say because like what I want to do is I want to get the transcript or the script and I want to read over that dialogue again because like you said it was beautiful, but other than that it's just that character and that would be something I feel so like I wish that we would have or that I would have had that part of the script pulled up because I feel like there's such a deep meaning there just because every line was so poignant and it was so purposeful that there's obviously a reason it is there.
Right. Yeah. These let us reiterate that the lines in the lighthouse, there's not a single line that seems like it's without purpose.
Oh no,
Every line.
exactly. Like you're like
Yeah.
there's some that make you laugh, like the lobster bit where Defoe's character is yelling at Pattinson's character who's drunk about liking his food.
Yeah, I've got that pulled up actually. It's one of the greatest pieces of writing that I've seen
Right.
in a long time.
If you find
It's
that, if you
amazing.
find that the him and that monologue near the end where he's getting buried, I would want you to recite it so we can dissect it. Um, there is another theory though that we have yet to discuss that is very reminiscent of the story itself.
What's that?
The mythological story of Prometheus and Proteus, and I'm not going to go too in depth because I think this one's probably the most well known. Um, Proteus was, in essence, the keeper of information. He was known as the friend of the sea beasts, and he protected knowledge and this light with his life. He was very defensive of it. Very, like, he'd get agitated if you asked him about it. Who does that sound like to you?
Wake.
Sounds just like Wake's character, about the light
Just
itself.
Wake. Yeah,
The true, yeah,
of
you
course.
can't see the light, you can't touch the light, the light's mine, all this and that. Prometheus's character was known to be a trickster. At some point, he did in fact steal the light, gave it to humanity, who then wanted more. And that whole curiosity, that trickster self, that is very much so Howard. That's very much so Robert Pattinson's character. And there are more nuances that connect them that I'm not remembering off the top of my head. But this is the part that really, other than the fact that those two things are very similar with Proteus and Prometheus, this is the part that really stood out to me. You know how Prometheus died?
How?
I want you to take a
Oh,
guess.
I know.
I want you to take a
Oh,
guess.
I know.
How did Prometheus die?
Birds.
He was eaten alive by seagulls.
Hmm.
What does that sound like?
It sounds just like Thomas Howard.
That is exactly how Thomas Howard dies. The last scene of the movie is as we've described, is a very gnarly and nasty shot of Robert Pattinson being eaten by gulls.
To the point of mutilation. I mean, he is being eaten.
Yeah.
He's not being picked. He's being
eaten. So yeah, it's so they're so close. I feel like that one's more of an homage. I really don't think that was a like meant to be like this is literally what the story is. I think that Robert Eggers was like, this is cool and it fits with the mythology of everything that these characters are all about, so I'll do it.
Well, yeah, it's deliberate though. We can't
Definitely.
say that this is some kind of theory or something because that's deliberate. I have the monologue from it fits perfectly into what I'm about to read you guys. I have the monologue of Wake when he is being buried alive by Pattinson. Do you want me to read it?
Hit us with it.
You wish to see what's in the lantern. So did me last decision. Ugh. Sorry.
No, you're good.
You wish to see what's in the lantern. So did me last assistant. Oh, what protean forms swim up from men's minds and melt in hot Promethean plunder, scorching eyes with divine shames and horrors, and casting them down to Davy Jones. The others stay blind, yet in it see all divine graces, and to fiddler's green scent, where no man is suffered to want and toil, but is ancient, mutable, and unchanging, as the she who girdles round the globe. Them's true, you'll be punished.
That could not be more perfect than what we just did. Once again,
Right.
we're just winging this as we go. We did not discuss this. The fact that in this moment of you finding this thing, I talked about Prometheus and Proteus, and then the quote is literally about Prometheus and Proteus.
Right. Yeah.
That is
And
so perfect.
when I watched the film, I caught Prometheus, but I'm not familiar with Proteus and Prometheus. Like I can't say that I am. But now reading this, like it's really this is how a director or a writer masterfully creates the you know implanting this story of Prometheus and Proteus as being an analogy for Wake and Howard, or the other way around, vice versa.
Exactly.
It's so masterful.
And I think an interesting point you said, writer, director. In this instance, it's the same person. Robert Eggers wrote it with his brother Max, and it is, as you said, everything you just said. Like I said, I like what you just said. I don't think that the Prometheus Proteus, I don't think that's so much a theory, or should be. I think that that's more of it's an analogy. It is a this is something that is very influential in the story, but I don't think that is the story.
Mm-mm.
Which is why
No, not at all.
there's all these parallels to it, but I don't think that this is trying to say, oh look, I recreated Prometheus and Proteus, the saga of these two. I think it's everything we've described before. It's one of the two. I think it's purgatory. I really do. Now whether it's a test or whether they're the same person, and it's I shouldn't say purgatory, because I guess my instance is more hell. Like he's already in hell. And he's just destined to relive it, whether it be from the seagull or whether it be from one of the two versions of himself. um to your purgatory, to where, like you said, it's a test. I think it's one of those two, but I
Yeah,
love.
well, you're talking about him being hell and him being in hell, and that leads me to believe that if that's the case, then the one-eyed seagull, the one-eyed previous wiki, and then the eventual corpse of Robert Pattinson are just proof that he is living this over and over and over, and these are just different iterations of
I'm so
the
stupid.
single soul.
I'm so stupid. You know what I just thought about you saying that?
What's that?
What if the face he pulled up, I know it was a different face, what if the face he pulled up was him?
His face, yeah, could have been, absolutely
Like
could have been,
it's been
yeah.
like it's been in the ocean, and I know it's a different face, and I know some people at home might be scouring, but like what if, like the last hand fell mad talking about sirens and whatnot. He had one eye.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
It makes so much sense. He pulls up himself, and then there's another random scene where Pattinson literally finds himself in the lighthouse. When he turns around, he sees a naked Defoe whose eyes are literally the lighthouse itself.
Glowing, and it's the most beautiful shot in the film. It is gorgeous, and it's actually based upon a classic sort of Victorian painting.
Yeah.
Looks exactly like it. And I think that one was also based upon Prometheus, that original painting.
Yeah. I
So
I think everything that we've discussed, the more that we go over it, I think that they're the same person, man.
that's what I'm inclined to believe. Or it's not meant to exactly be, the same physical form, you know, but it's more of a fluid, more of a open to interpretation form of the infinite loop sort of idea.
Right. And honestly, it could be a mixture of the two. Maybe they are the same person, but the older version is destined to break his younger version.
Right. But possibly, yeah.
Like it
Absolutely.
really could be. There's so much. That's what makes this movie so good. Is that the more you break it down, what looks like random scenes is so rich with story and can be interpreted in so many different ways, which is what makes this just an art form in itself.
Well, I think the real red herring here is the dialogue. You're so interested in the idiosyncratic language that Thomas Wake uses, especially that you forget to even look for symbols, themes, motifs, foils, things like that, because it's just so beautifully written
Right. And
and
go ahead.
such interesting language is used. And from what I've also found, there's not a lot of I mean, there's some, but a lot of this is in layman's terms. A lot of the dialogue doesn't use terms that the average viewer wouldn't know about. I'm sure seafarers and wikis alike have jargon that would be completely inaccessible to the viewers of this film in 20 2020, 2021, 2022, whenever 2019. um so it's just so masterful how these common words and terms are strung together in such a way that makes them so interesting. Interpretation aside, theory aside, I cannot stress enough that the writing is some of the best in its class.
Agreed. And I think a good note here to end on before we move into our final segment. I want to give props, and I don't think there's any words that can describe the acting chops of Defoe and Pattinson throughout this whole film.
Yeah,
I
I
want to
mean,
I want to put this into perspective. This movie, mostly dialogue between
you're right. Yeah,
between two characters. There are
there's nothing that really goes on in the
no,
movie. It's isolation.
there are two actors that primarily are there. There's just two. I think there's three build, and the third one is the siren, the mermaid that Robert Pattinson's character makes love to. I it's just the fact that those two were able to, in this jargon, in these very very specific Robert Eggers, like he was very pinpoint on what he wanted from each character, from each actor, very specific, and it works so well. And the actors Defoe and Pattinson did such a masterful job that, like, I did they win, how many awards did they win for that, if any? I know they have to, right?
Yeah, I'm sure they won a lot of awards.
They had to have been something, right?
Let's look
See,
here.
Defoe. So it says 2020 Independent Spirit Award for Best Supporting Male was Defoe. Satellite Award for Best Actor in a Supporting Role was Defoe. And Independent Spirit Award for Best Cinematography was Jaron. I cannot pronounce his last name. Blanche
Blanche.
did the get subbed. It all. So yes, it according to cinemablend.com, so yes, it did get recognition in some form or another, though it is surprisingly snubbed completely at the Golden Globes, which has nominations for both dramas, musicals, comedies, but still.
Well, horror films don't win a lot of things like that.
But
Well,
still, like,
still, it should have been more
it,
heavily
it, it
awarded.
was a Darren Blance got a BAFTA nominee for best cinematography. It did get, okay. So Blansk was the one who got, rightfully so, A24, and Jaron Blansk got a lot of nominations. He got an Oscar nominee for best cinematography, as a BAFTA nomination, a the best buddy picture at the AARP movie. It was a nominee. Alice, that's so funny. Um, Alice of
Especially because it was from the AARP,
I know the
the
Alice of
American Association for Retired People. Sorry, I'll let you go on.
No, you're good. The Alice of Women Film Journalists, the EDA Award nominee. It was the best supporting actor was Willem Dafoe in that instance. Just a bunch of nominees. It did win. Oh, Jaron Blansk won another award, rightfully so. Once again, um, nominee. I'm not seeing a lot of victories here. Winner at the Palomares Logos de Oro for best supporting actor, and it was Dafoe, which I think that's probably Spain. But, like, I'm looking at, like, it's got like a laundry list of awards and nominations, but none of them from the ones that you would imagine.
Right.
Like,
So,
it had one Oscar nomination, and that was for Jaron Blansk. Once again, rightfully so. Great cinematography. Some of the best I've
fantastic.
seen.
Especially especially the use of shadows,
Dude,
because it's in black and white, right? There's no color to work on, so it
right.
all has to be shadow.
In the
And
movement and the angles that they take throughout the entire film is just so crisp, and it's so like you like once we were talking about Eggers and his writing was so pinpoint. The cinematography was so like if it was any different, it would have been an awful movie.
right, yeah, but it's just this is a film. This is an exercise in being a member of the master class in acting and directing. It's phenomenal.
Oh my gosh.
One more thing I'd like to touch on, though. I will touch on this very briefly.
Okay.
There's a lot of body things that go on in the film,
I
right? A lot
that
of
I'm happy you pointed this out. You're right.
a lot of bodily functions, uh, feces, urine, farts, things like that. Plus the addition of the homosexual undertones of the film. There's some dialogue. The characters are very drunk and they almost make out. They almost kiss one another. There's masturbation. And of course, we can't forget that the lighthouse is a giant phallus
Very
in
much so.
in in its symbols. I think it would be very hard to make a movie about a lighthouse without it being a phallic symbol, because that's what all lighthouses pretty much look like. But there's something that Eggers is saying here about men and their relationship with one another, especially when isolation is an added part. I don't exactly know what he's saying.
Right. See, last thing I'll add because I do think it's important to add to what you're saying. I read somewhere, and you guys can look it up. I hope it's true. Eggers in the script wanted a scene where he had the lighthouse, and then it would match cut to an erect penis.
Oh, oh, well, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and A24 and the production company said no.
Yeah, we can't have that. And even we talk about the little mermaid, the
Siren
mermaid doll, yeah, siren doll that Pattinson has, and he masturbates to
the
the
doll.
siren
Yeah.
doll in his hand, right? He holds it in his hand, but right in the scene before he almost kisses Thomas Wake, he breaks the doll. He smashes the doll, and that symbolically could be a representation of him rejecting the female of the outside world and embracing and accepting the male in within his own sexuality.
Right, and they coddle a lot. Like that, you can see them literally cuddling. And they do that slow dance to the make out scene. Well, almost make out. Then they fight to kind of reinstill masculinity.
Right.
I think everything you're saying is right on point. I think Eggers. I hope maybe one day we can interview him and ask him personal questions about this stuff.
Oh,
But
we'll get him on the show.
let's get him on the show. All right, but that will be the end of this long-winded segment. All right, in our final segment of these shows, we will always have watched one movie that has come out in theaters or been released to Netflix or whatever, and give our opinion about it. This week, it's Morbius, and as we described earlier, Morbius has had a record for superhero movies, and their second week drop off at the box office, it lost 74% of what it had made in compared to the first week, and I hate to say rightfully so.
It was the best movie I've ever seen, man. I don't know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah. No, I actually haven't seen Morbius. I've read some reviews. I've seen what people are saying, and doesn't look so hot for old Leto.
See, here's the thing. I think the actors in it did really well. Like Leto, I would feel like he did well in this movie with what he had. I don't know the complexity of the character Morbius. I've never read comic books about him. I've not read any other deeper fiction about his character. So I don't know anything going in. And here's the thing. Watching it, it feels like the shell of the project that should have been. Like it feels like it's not complete. It feels like it could be a decent movie. I don't think there's a world where it could have been great, but it's like I want to enjoy it. I described how I enjoy Doctor Who. Matt Smith is the villain. He is what do they call him? Milo. He is. I guess a good way. I guess a good thing to do now would probably be to roughly describe the story. So Matt Smith's character and Jared Leto's character, Milo and Morbius, they both have the same blood disorder that leaves them crippled. They walk around with crutches, and their lifespan is not very long. And so the movie is so convoluted in this story. So the first thing you see is just in every trailer you've seen it, where Morbius is standing in front of the cave and he cuts his hand open and the bats fly at him. That was to capture vampire bats, which we learned later is so that he could try to find out how they digest blood, because that will somehow solve his ailment. They don't really explain how it solves his ailment, just that it will. But then after this scene, after this initial scene, we get a really Star Wars esque like circle fade to or fade in to the past. It jumps back to Morbius's past, and it shows him as a child in Greece, where he is at this hospital for kids like him. So you see young Morbius, you see the entrance of young Milo, and they're discussing, and like out of a bad comedy, as they're discussing, you just see Milo's character just kind of keel over, and this weird beeping start, right? And it's literally as Morbius is discussing, this poor child actor just like leans over and just lays to his side, and it's kind of comical. And Morbius looks around, young Morbius, I should say, and he's like, "Help, nurse!" And no one comes, so he turns around, disassembles a pen, opens the back of the machine hooked to this poor child, takes out the spring and puts it into the machine, and that fixes it.
Okay.
Milo, like in the same comical sense that he keeled over, he raises back up like a zombie from the dead, and he looks at Morbius, and he might have said something like, "You saved me," I don't know. Then we get like this really quick like chain of events to where the guy that runs the place is like, "Morbius, you have a gift. You saved him with a pen. I'm gonna send you to New York to be trained." And Morbius is like, "What about Milo?" And the guy's like, I will, not train. I almost said train. I will raise Milo as my own." And so then it cuts to Morbius as an adult, and it says something very quickly about him getting a doctorate at 19. And all this is happening in the first 5 minutes. So you can if you hear the tone in my voice, it's very frustrating because like I said, the story is interesting in itself, but it's so convoluted and so quick. And I don't think this is a director problem. I think this is a editing problem. I don't know why they took this route, but this is the route we're going. So then, like I said, you cut back to Morbius as an adult, and he's talking to a girl who has a young girl who's got the same issues as he does. Then he goes into the other end of the hospital where it just randomly has this giant like tube-like structure that he can house these bats in. I don't know how no one suspected this, but there it is. He just randomly has this perfect department in his hospital that he works at that is, suited for a guy that will eventually become a vampire. Yeah, and so he he takes out he kills a bat. Like he cuts it open and he takes out the gland that digests blood. Doesn't explain how it fixes it. Somehow creates this serum, and he goes to talk to Milo, who is now Matt Smith as an adult, and he's like, "I think I can fix it. It's very experimental, so experimental that we have to get on a boat outside of the United States to do it." And they fast forward, they do that, and surely enough, when they stick the serum inside Morbius, he becomes the vampire, the living vampire. And they don't explain how that happens. They don't explain how that works. But huzzah, he is cured. But at what cost? He's now a the living vampire who thirsts for human blood. And I didn't say Morbius the human was very well known for creating this fake blood, this synthetic blood, right? And that's his kind of claim to fame, is that like, we don't need real blood anymore because I create synthetic blood. And so the rest of the movie is Milo is like, "Why don't you give me?" Because he made like 3 serums, and Milo's like, "Why can't I be like you?" And Morbius is like, "It's a curse, you can't." And so eventually, because Morbius can't control his hunger, he goes about. Well, I should put it this way: a random woman at the hospital he works at comes up dead, drained of blood, and so they blame Morbius because the cops are investigating because once Morbius first turned into the vampire, he ate everybody on the boat except for his girlfriend. Um, you know, once again, that makes a lot of sense. And because he can't control his bloodthirst, but the second he sees his girlfriend, he's not thirsty anymore. But so the police think, yeah, the police think it's Morbius, and Morbius is arrested, and it turns out that Milo had taken the serum behind Morbius's back, and he's now a vampire. And the rest of the movie is Morbius flying around trying to figure out how to control himself, and Milo eating people until the final battle, where this is the part that irks me. Okay, we get to the very
Shoot.
end. We get to the very end. Milo wants
Okay.
to convince Morbius to stop hiding and to fight him. So he gets his girlfriend, right? He's telling her, like, say his name. And he's like, Morbius. And so finally, Morbius shows up, but when he gets there, Milo's gone, and his girlfriend's bleeding out because she's dying because he stabbed her with his long, pointy fingernail in the throat, and she's dying now. So she's dying, and she's like, let me help you, i.e., trying to tell Morbius to drink her blood so that he could be strong. Oh, yeah, no, I guess another detail. Synthetic blood doesn't make them as strong as when they drink human blood. Big caveat there. So,
Of course.
yeah, so he watches her die, and then Morbius screams and drinks her blood, and then poof, Milo's there, and he's like, ha, you're finally like me, and then they fight, and then they fight, and they fight, and they somehow get underground, and then Morbius channels his power of bat calling, and he beats Milo by injecting him with some sort of poison that he had made earlier in the film. And as the film's ending, Morbius is flying through the air. Do you remember that part where I said he drank his girlfriend's blood?
Yeah.
She just wakes up.
Oh.
Like, she wakes up as a vampire. She they had to went through painstaking lengths to make sure that you understand that the vampires were created by a serum, but lo and behold, she gets bit, and unlike everyone else that's been bit, she just comes back. And that's the end of the movie.
What?
Yep, and also there's a post-credit to where somehow Michael Keaton's Vulture gets put into the Sonyverse with Morbius.
Oh yeah, Adrian Toomes.
Yeah, and those two meet up, but then that's the end of the movie. That's it.
Sounds stupid. Sounds like it's a lackluster attempt at making a superhero movie.
I don't like. That's the thing, is that like there's so many. So I had also been told, and once again, this is just word of mouth. I don't know if this is truthful or not. I had been told that there was supposed to be a lot more involvement of Vulture throughout the main story, but then they decided they wanted it to be a surprise, so they cut all his scenes that were throughout the movie.
Oh yeah.
And that really left it like a shell. And you can tell. I'm not saying don't watch it, but it's not a good movie. But here's the thing: like I said, it seemed like it had a purpose. It seemed like the actors knew what they were doing. Other than Matt Smith. Matt Smith has come out and said on the record that he does not know where his character is supposed to go, other than that his character died, supposedly.
Yeah.
But, it's so confusing, it's so convoluted, and it feels like it was a producing and editing decision that made it that way.
Right.
Just from my point of view, I could be completely wrong. I think the director's name is Daniel Espinosa, and I feel like he could have had a lot of say in it. But, just from watching it, I don't want to blame him, because it does look like there's a lot of heart put into it. But and this will be the quote for how I took this movie. They sacrifice actual story for CGI, for effects.
Well, I'm sure it's very visually impressive.
See, well, so here's the thing: when they're flying through the air and when they're moving, they have this really cool like trailing effect that I like. But sometimes, Matt Smith and and Jared Leto's characters, sometimes they will be halfway turned into a vampire, and their face will kind of start turning, and it looks bad. It
looks really bad.
It just looks disgusting. It looks so, and there's a scene where Matt Smith is dancing around, and for some reason they superimpose the vampire face on him.
Oh, ooh, yeah, I'm sure that sucked.
So it was just it just made no sense, and it just was I want to enjoy it. I watch it and I'm like, this could be really fun, but it is stupid, and it makes no sense. And I want to see more Morbius, because I want to see the character done properly. But also, like I said, I don't know any of the backstory, so I don't know how much more depth the character has in the comic books. So this might have been the most depth we ever find from this character, which would be very depressing. Um, yeah, I don't know. They and another noteworthy tidbit is that at the end when Vulture is he meets up with Morbius, and remember, Vulture just teleported from another universe, and somehow in the next day he has all his Vulture armor from the other universe. They don't explain that. He just has it.
Strange. He
Yeah.
just has it.
So he just has it, and he talks about Spider-Man. Like he says, I think this has to do with Spider-Man. And Morbius's character isn't shocked. He doesn't. It's not like he's questioning who he is. He just goes along with it, and that makes me think that there is a Spider-Man in this universe.
But it's perhaps a different Spider-Man.
Or is it Tobey Maguire, or not Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield?
Andrew Garfield. See that? I mean, he is the Sony Spider-Man.
That's
So
what I'm saying, and so it's kind of like, could
like
that be?
we might get a Garfield v Morbius v Adrian Toomes sort of film. Who knows?
That would be fun. See, here's the thing. This is what I hate: is that the movie was just bad, right? Like I said, I've said all the reasons why, and I said I wanted to like it, but I don't. It's a bad movie. But because it made over
Okay.
100 million, right? It's made over 100 million in 2 weeks.
Right.
So there's going to be a sequel. They've made enough money that they can say we made a profit, and it's worth making a second one to continue the story, especially if Spider-Man's involved. And I hate to say it, but if Spider-Man's involved, I am interested. Specifically because I
I'm
want to
interested
know
too,
who
just
it
because
is.
it's Spider-Man.
Which one?
Right. Just because it's Spider-Man.
Right. Like if it was just a random Spider-Man that they're going to try to introduce, I would hate it. I'd be like, whatever. But if it's Andrew Garfield,
I'm a big Garfield guy, so yeah, I'd be a big fan of that.
you see, I wasn't, but he really saved him. Like he's come around a lot after watching No Way Home.
Oh, one thing that I heard, like a little rumor. We talked about Will Smith. Miles Morales being played by Jaden Smith.
Which, you know,
I
see,
saw that somewhere.
if I don't care about that casting, I'm not gonna judge Jaden Smith by his father. So
Right.
I don't I know he was in that pretty crappy remake of Karate Kid, and I don't know much. Like I think he's a pretty good actor. I don't know much else about him. So I don't know whether or not I would like that casting or not. But if it's Miles Morales in that universe, I would actually be kind of hyped because that would be interesting.
I'm a big fan of Miles Morales.
Yeah.
I really like him. I love Into the Spider-Verse, as does everyone. So
As I was about to say, I really wouldn't mind if they took a Into the Spider Verse type of route because if this is a Miles Morales, what if like you could easily pull off a story arc that gives Andrew Garfield another movie, but also says farewell to him, as in like you remember Into the Spider Verse, that Spider Man dies, so Miles Morales can be Spider Man.
right.
That's something that
Ooh.
is very feasible.
Yeah, and that seems like it might be the direction that they're going in.
Yeah, like you bring back Andrew, give him a full movie, and at the end, introduce Miles Morales and that whole story arc. Maybe not make it one movie, maybe make it part one and part two. And then at the end of the second movie, Andrew Garfield dies, and Jaden Smith's Miles Morales is full formed, and he's now the superhero, and he fights Venom, and he fights Vulture, and he fights Morbius in that universe.
I like that a lot.
I do too.
That sounds like that's what they're trying to do here.
It
It's
does.
going to be like a sort of like an off-brand Spider-Man No Way Home.
It will, and I'm not opposed to it. I just don't want them to go super into the Spider Verse route where it's like they pull all the other Spider Men from their universe and come. I don't want them to rehash that story. I want it to be unique.
Yeah,
But
and yeah, it just seems like they can mess up Morbius, and like there won't be like that big of a backlash over it. But they know that if they mess up Spider-Man and make a bad Spider-Man movie,
yeah,
then there will be a riot and people will burn couches out on the street or something.
factual.
So like I feel like they would put a lot more creative, not effort, but there would be more like creative synchronicity there.
Right. Yeah. No, I completely agree, and I think it says a lot about the movie Morbius that the only thing that saves it is the potential connection to Spider-Man.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to see it.
Yeah.
I I would like. I think I'll watch it after you talked about it, and maybe next week I can touch on it a little bit.
I definitely say, and that's something we can open with if you do. I definitely say watch it just for the sake of watching it because like it's not like I said it. I would like to hear your take on it. I'm not gonna say it's an awful movie, but it's definitely not one that I would particularly want to watch again. Um, but yeah, so here we go. So this is going to be the way we end these segments in these shows is that we will always give a collective rating on movies. Like we both will give our rating and then we'll meet in the middle. And I think we should do it out of 5 stars. If you disagree, should we do it out of 10? It's whatever you want to do.
We'll do 10.
10? Okay.
Yeah.
So since you haven't seen it, we'll just go with my star rating. 10 stars.
Okay.
It is a
That's your rating?
No, 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 no. We're going out of 10
Oh,
stars. No, 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 no. It is a solid 3 out of 10.
3 out of 10.
Maybe,
Okay.
maybe more like 2.5, but I'll be nice and I'll give it 3 because it's got potential.
Sure.
But like that is a stretch.
3 out of 10.
Yep, that
Okay.
is the first official beyond the screen film rating.
I think for our ratings, we shouldn't just do stars though. Like for Morbius, it should be 3 fangs out of 10.
All right, fine. I like it. Three, or packets, or like so. Morbius throughout the film just drinks out of bags of blood.
Okay.
3 or 10. It's 3 blood bags out of 10.
Okay. And for the Lighthouse,
Oh gosh, we don't even have to like it. 10 out of 10. Wooden mermaid dolls.
I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. 9 missing eyeballs out of 10.
All right, so we'll meet in the half at 9.5 eyeless mermaid wooden dolls out of 10.
That works for me.
All right, and so those are the first two. Thank you guys for watching. Sorry if we're a little rough around the edges to begin with. This is only episode 1, and I think we had a lot of really good debate.
So we look forward to catching up with you guys next week.
Next week, we will have both watched The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I am so excited about it.
I'm hyped.
More film news, and The Witch.
The Witch.
The next installment, and then the week after that. So if any of you guys are like, oh, I'm going to be listening to this all the time. The third week of our show, the finale of the Robert Eggers month, we will be watching The Northman, his new film that comes out on the 22nd of April. And I cannot tell you how ecstatic I am. I've been waiting for this for so long.
It's gonna be great.
Yep.
It's gonna be absolutely great.
It's got Willem Dafoe. Who else does it? I want to know. The guy that plays the Northman. I don't know the names of the characters yet.
It's a Skarsgård. Alexander Skarsgård Amleth.
I wonder if they're related.
Oh yeah, they're related for sure. There's like 7 of the Skarsgårds.
Alexander Skarsgård. His name is Amleth in the movie. And yeah, yep, Brother Bill. Man, the Skarsgårds are making it happen.
They are. There's several more. I think their father was actually a famous actor as well.
Of course he was.
We have okay, so we have 2 that I can see right now. Characters. Wow. The casting for the Northman is
it's insane.
nuts. Okay, we have Ralph Ineson, who was the lead in The Witch. He was the father.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also have the Mountain.
Yeah.
The Mountain is in it.
You can't have a movie about Norse mythology and not have the Mountain in it.
Of course, we have Ethan Hawke. We have Nicole Kidman. We have Bjork, Anya Taylor-Joy of The Witch. We have so many
Willem Dafoe.
Right, and it seems to me that Robert Eggers is sort of creating a little universe of actors in his own works as his catalog goes further into the future.
Once it, the best directors do. I mean, you think of Wes Anderson, and with Bill Murray. And you think of which let me tell you, the month of Wes Anderson is something I am so pumped for. Like I can't tell
I-
you how ready I am to go over Wes Anderson's filmography.
I've got a lot to say about a lot of his films.
Very excited. But yeah, and that's been Beyond the Screen. Any final words? I guess we've already done that, but I'll do it again.
Um, get ready for 6-hour episodes starting with Wes Anderson week.
Yeah, it's gonna be so much, but this is why we do this. All right.
Okay,
Yep.
well, over and out.
Over and we'll see you guys next week.
See you guys next week.